Hello everyone, my name is Eileen Neuer with Rancho Cordova Arts, and thank you for joining us for our first Zoom webinar. Today I have the absolute pleasure of introducing Susan Sorensen. Susan is a full-time artist and art instructor with over 26 years of art instruction under her belt. She was involved in the formation of 3 co-op art galleries, including the Auburn Old Town Gallery. She uses a whole range of different mediums, including acrylics, oil paints, watercolor, photography, pen and ink, and even basket weaving. Today, she will be sharing her passion for self-expression by helping you figure out how to fill up that blank sketchbook and how to get the idea flowing. Next week, on November 14th, I hope that you'll join us as she continues with part 2 of this tutorial. So you can register on our website on ranchocordovaarts.com. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Susan, and I'll pass over the video and the mic.
So this is about keeping a sketchbook for brain health and art inspiration, avoiding blocks and keeping a flow of creativity. So as we were just talking about, I have a blog, so you can look at that. I've got a lot of art instruction there. Also, I'm on Facebook under Susan Sorensen, and make sure you spell Sorensen with 2 E's. I also have a Facebook group called Draw Garbage. And I do explain on there why draw garbage, and also I will explain more of that to you. Why draw garbage? It's a strange thing to say. I have a disclaimer for you. I want you to take everything I say with question. I want you to take workshops from lots of different instructors. Compare your notes and develop your own style. So I already had my wonderful introduction. I don't have to give you any more of that. So let me skip through my notes. All right. First of all, so many people say they have an artist block due to maybe a death in the family or something busy going on in their life that just keeps them too anxious and full of stress. So basically an artist block, what it boils down to is fear. We judge ourselves and compare what we might draw or we might paint or we might sculpt, etc., to all the art known to humankind. In school, we are taught to use words and numbers for problem solving and reason and logic. We are not just taught to think artistically, a more daydreamy way to solve problems, but this less analytic way of thinking is just as intelligent and as important. We cannot solve lack of inspiration with letters and numbers. Most of us in our formative years have never had contact with art lessons of any kind. I didn't even have blank paper to draw on in school. The children have holiday art, green and red paper for Christmas, orange and black paper for Halloween, etc. I know that this is kind of like the introduction part. If it were a book, you'd already be looking at pictures. So let me just go ahead and show you some pictures. Okay, this is some art I did when I was 13. Well, maybe I just put it up to the screen like this. My very first art class in junior high school. And the teacher would put up a still life and just say, here you go. And then he would walk over and proceed with his ceramic sculpting, which he was constantly doing. Because I guess he sold them. He used school time as a teacher to just kind of turn us loose and to do our own thing. We didn't get any instruction. So we had to do a value study, which was the first one I showed you. And then we had to do painting. And I did a lot of these. And I really didn't know what I was doing. And I was constantly afraid and intimidated. This one, let's see if I can get these on more, visible for you. I'll end up knocking it over. This is a picture that I drew when I first started college. It was one of those days when the nude model didn't show up. And the reason why I guess I picked this one to show is because everybody else in the class was drawing these little bitty bowls. It was a still life. Our teacher was also a potter, and these are his bowls. And so everyone was drawing these little Barbie-sized bowls inside of this big paper, which we always had to use 18 by 24, standing at an easel. And all of a sudden he comes up beside me and he says, "Ooh, now here's an artist. Oh my gosh, I probably should have this in a frame." And in college we did lots of skeleton drawings. When we didn't have a live model. Let's see, what else do I have on here? I'm going to tell you over and over and over to draw with a pen, but I still do draw with pencil because it's so yummy. This was a homework exercise, and I can't remember what the assignment was, what the topic was, but if you could tell, it's an ink pen laying on the corner of the table. Okay, saving all this stuff. What I'm going to tell you to do to enjoy drawing is to draw like a child. Draw as if you were a child. Oops. I want to inspire you to use the sketchbook to keep creativity flowing, get past artist blocks, and form a healthy habit. There's no magic or miracles involved in learning to tie your shoe, to drive a car, to play a musical instrument, or draw and paint. We learn through repetition, and we get good at the things we do often. And while you are drawing, you will want to draw more because creativity happens while we are being creative. I would like to urge you to, when you're keeping a sketchbook, to also write quotes, glue in pictures of things that inspire you. Let's see if you can see that. I'm sorry, having trouble with my easel. So I just mentioned that when I was in college, we had to use an 18 by 24 sketch pad to do all of our drawings, and we had to stand. There's something about using a large sketchbook that helps you use more than just your knuckles when you're trying to draw. When I was taking a methods class in teaching, one of the things that we learned to help kids learn their spelling assignment is to walk up to the chalkboard or dry erase board, I don't know if they have chalkboards anymore, and write the letters to the spelling in really big letters, at least 6 inches tall, and then to take at least 2 fingers of their hand and then to trace over the letters 3 times, because you're moving so much more of your body than just your knuckles. It helps you learn better. It helps you remember. It helps you progress more. Okay, I want you to know that this drawing class is a one-size-fits-all. Anybody who has never drawn before, or maybe you have your work hanging in galleries because you do so well, I just want to help you draw to keep a good flow going, to keep the creativity going, to draw in a sketchbook every day. I'm not going to do step-by-step how to draw. We're not going to talk about perspective and composition right now. Sorry. Okay, I mentioned drawing with a pen. Why draw with a pen? Because you don't get to erase. Because your erasers keep telling you to make mistakes. It's easy to make mistakes and get rid of them. You're not going to keep progressing if you're constantly reminded that you're going to make mistakes, it's a negative, and it's a creativity killer. Sorry, I feel so discombobulated, and I know it's awkward, and I'm reading from my notes because I'm having a hard time right now. I thought I had it figured out so smoothly. Drawing with a pen causes fear, and a fear of making mistakes keeps us out of touch with our abilities. And if you learn to use the fear as a way to not make mistakes, push past the fear, you will be able to more quickly develop an artist's eye. So draw with a pen to scare the bejeebers out of yourself, and use the fear as a learning tool to help you improve your drawings. Something I have discovered lately, drawing with a large nib has helped me, has helped my drawing skill develop even better. Let me show you some drawings that I did with the tiny, I don't know if you can see these okay, with a tiny pen nib, a 0.005 in my small sketchbooks, the little ones. The lines are often restated and a little bit scratchy looking compared to the bold lines in my more recent books. Here's one I just did the other day with a larger nib. It was just a fast drawing. And do I use my sketches to turn into paintings? This is an example right here. This is an 18 by 20 or 16 by 20 painting that I did. And I did so many sketches in other books before I worked this one out. Okay, I want to talk to you about getting yourself settled down. I think I really need this right now more than anybody to do your drawings. I want you to sit with your feet firmly on the floor, relax your back against the back of your chair. I want you to hold your arms down to your sides, and I want you to close your eyes and do some deep breathing. And I want you to rotate your head so that you can get the tension out of your neck. Maybe say no, nod your head yes, just to work your neck. And then think of your brain as a messy attic, and you are yourself up in your attic as a tiny janitor with a big push broom, and you're sweeping all of your daily angst off the attic floor and out the chutes off to the side, through your ears, tumbling down your shoulders to your arms. And then shake your hands, flick off all the garbage like little droplets of water. Okay, you're anxious to draw. I'm anxious to show you some drawing. Okay, what I want you to do right now is to take your sketchbook and open to a blank page, and I want you to turn it upside down. And I want you to do one of those drawings in your sketchbook, like the grade school teachers have the kids do, where you scribble and then come back later and then color in all of the segments of your scribble. So here's an example. And I want you to just randomly scribble, but I'm not going to have you color it in right now, because I want you to come back later when you can sneak up on it and then design it. Oh, sorry. Okay, I have some examples to show you and now I'm not finding them. Okay, we'll get to that later. Just keep your drawing set aside. Okay. First of all, I'm going to have Eileen show you a video that I did, and I won't be so discombobulated. So Eileen, if you're ready for the first video, I'd like to have a video ready for you to show with examples of sketchbooks, how to pick out sketchbooks, good things to look for, etc. Don't worry, there's not sound in this part.
Susan, that's quite a collection of sketchbooks there.
That's a very small fraction.
Wow. Well,
don't draw and drive, but please do draw from the passenger seat or the back seat while somebody else is driving.
So
Here's a statement I have heard from many of my students. I wish there was a drawing class to take before I take my first drawing class. As crazy as this sounds, I completely understand. This comes from allowing fear to disconnect us from our abilities. Sorry, I'm trying to draw and talk at the same time. Our brains don't want us to do that. Speaking and creativity, the act of drawing, comes from two separate sides of the brain. There's a place to learn how to draw. It's your sketchbook. I want to inspire you to use the sketchbook to keep creativity flowing and get past artistic blocks and form a healthy habit. We are creative while we're creating. Lemons. Doesn't this guy have the most amazing nose? Whether or not you are starting a new sketchbook, I want to talk to you about doing so. Do you ever get a new sketchbook that's so pretty, nice leather? You hate to open it up and get started. Beautiful, hand-tooled, hand-stitched binding. Lots of pristine white paper. Several people have told me about receiving one that's so special, comes in a box. Ooh, information about the people who made it. Oh my gosh, and look at this. It has a hand-tooled design, supposedly. I'm sure all these are done by machine. Lovely. But you know what? The paper in this thing is totally garbage. You couldn't erase on it if you wanted to. This one was actually, instead of hand stitching, like this other one I showed you, they used this heavy strap. And I took it all out and redid it with some bookbinding thread. I guess I should replace the paper while I was at it, but it's only paper. I'm just going to draw on it with an ink pen. But you know, paper that isn't high quality is really tough on a fountain pen. It clogs it because all those little fibers get into the nib, so the ink doesn't flow very well. So don't be afraid to wreck it. Remember, fear is something that separates you from your abilities. So, open up. Oh, wait. I want to tell you something else. Something else that people have been telling me that I think is utterly silly. Instead of turning to the first page, jump somewhere in the middle, 10 or 12 or 15 pages in, and start there. See, that's fear again, being timid and hiding what you're doing. Well, you know what? Turn it to the first page, pee on that puppy, make it your own. Put your name and contact information and decorate it. When I put my contact information, I always write somewhere to please return it if found. Okay, this is my old sketchbook. And S is for Susan. And I glued in an old business card here. My contact information is underneath the Post-it. And this first page, by the way, was one that I did a drawing on underneath this glued on printout of a painting that I started, because the drawing that's underneath there I considered to be a failed drawing. And so I hid it, but that's okay. I mean, you can do lots of stuff to failed drawings. So if your book doesn't come with an envelope, get yourself one and glue it in here. This is not leather, this is paper, so I can glue it down okay. So I give my glue stick from myself. Why do you want an envelope in it? You know, some sketchbooks come with it. Those nice Moleskine sketchbooks have one built in. Well, as we go through life, we tend to collect little things that we stick in the pages, and then when you're turning the pages of your wonderful sketchbook, they become a nuisance and fall out. So here's a place to put them. Now, when you start your new sketchbook, grab a sketchbook that you had in progress before and start emptying the envelope and pick out some things to put in your new sketchbook. There's a lot of stuff in this one. A lot still in there. Things that you come across when you're out and about. Things that you find in mail order catalogs or magazines. Here's something I found at the health food store. I thought would be fun to stick in here somewhere. Has the artist's name there. Pretty earth and the moon and the sun all in one piece. Here's a little drawing that I did while I was on the phone. I do lots of those, and that's like one of the warm-up exercises that we're going to do to get started in our sketchbook. We're going to talk about warm-up exercises. First, I want to glue this one in. I need to get more glue on it with this catalog over here. Yeah. Okay. Well, we have a little bit of a start. How do you know if there's quality paper in a new sketchbook? You can look for the acid-free term somewhere on the book. If it doesn't say acid-free, it's not. They always say acid-free if they are. This one that I showed you before, the paper which I explained was crappy, I've kind of used it more as a scrapbook, gluing in other pages to draw on Oh, it's actually easier to draw them outside the book and then glue them in later. Well, some of these are drawn directly in the book. There's a lot of artists who are unhappy with so many bookmakers turning out yucky paper in sketchbooks. And they say that we as artists need to just quit buying them so they'll quit making them. Well, the problem is that so many people give them as gifts. As a matter of fact, I know someone who was given one of these fancy ones, and she was afraid to draw in it, and her dogs got to it because of the leather and chewed it up after she'd had it put away as a precious item, too afraid, fear keeping her from taking it on, and her dogs ruined the cover. Well, I would say it was pretty bad. She showed it on Facebook, and everybody started chiming in and gave her dozens of ideas on how to fix it. I don't know if she ever did, but that's kind of sad. You are still feeling fearful of starting a new sketchbook. Here's a good one to try. Wreck This Journal by Carrie Smith. The book, every page is full of prompts to get you to do destructive things. Here I am tossing my book. I photoshopped in a second because I had my friend do a few shots quickly. Let's see, this is a good one. Collect fruit stickers. I mean, you know, stuff that you wouldn't do to a regular sketchbook, but it just gets you moving along. It's a good book. It's very fun.
Oh no. Okay, I'm back. I see that I can't turn my lens over. Oh, there. Yes, it works. Hooray. All right. Earlier we did some scribbling, and I wanted to show you. Now, this idea comes from Mary Wong. She's part of my Thursday art group, to scribble and decorate your scribbles. This is one I particularly like. And she actually uses hers for inspiration for larger paintings. And if you're having trouble doing anything to them, you can collage on them. This is one I saw a face, and so I did these little magazine cutouts. This one's still in progress. I think I'll get back to this one sometime. Okay, why do we draw? We are born with a primal urge to make a mark on something. For proof, look up some 7,300-year-old cave paintings, or watch a child head toward the wall with a crayon, or newly poured concrete. I can never resist. How about making pictures on the beach with a stick? Everybody's inclined to mark on something somewhere at some point during their life. Okay, we're going to do some warm-up exercises, and I want you to go ahead and make 3 little windows on your sketchbook. And in this first one, I want you to practice drawing some straight lines, because people say, I can't draw a straight line. And I don't know if that's a serious complaint or excuse, or if it's something that people just say when they feel like they should draw, when they're not able to draw. So let's practice drawing straight lines, because if straight lines are important to you, you could practice them. I want you to start by making the 3 horizontal lines across your paper. And then I want you to make X's across this line and make your X's touch that center line where they cross in the middle. This is a design that I saw in a documentary about cave paintings, and it was done with red iron oxide. So in the next one, I want you to draw some opposite of straight lines. I want you to draw wavy lines. And I want to show you how to get started with that one. This is the one I was just talking about in the video that I always do when I'm on the phone. So I want you to start on the left side, and I often even fill whole pages such as this. Start on the left side, and I want you to just draw a squiggly line of any kind all the way across and finish on the right side. And then go back to the left side and then follow or don't follow the squiggly line. Maybe make some changes and keep working your way across similarly, starting on the left and working your way across to the right. This is a pretty good meditational warm-up drawing. The importance of warm-up drawings is kind of like the breathing and cleaning out the brain, getting rid of the monkey mind exercise that we started with. It helps you relax. When you see a mark coming off of a marking tool under your control, it helps to lower your heart rate. It helps to relieve stress, and it helps you to draw things enjoyable. So when you're drawing enjoyably, it helps you draw every day. It helps you crave drawing every day. It helps you form a healthy habit. So with the third one, I want to talk about circles. There's so many things in our universe that are circular shaped, planets, river rocks, bubbles, etc., that our mind actually tends to see many things of circles, even if they're not. Okay, so in the third little window that you did on your paper, I'd like you to draw some circles. Big circles, small circles. Decorate the circles, don't decorate the circles. Whatever you like. So I want to tell you something about making circles or things that have two similar shaped sides. If you start on the left side first, like, you know, a vase, a jack-o'-lantern, a heart. If you start on the left side first and draw your shape, and maybe this is reversed for people who are left-handed, and then you try to copy the left side with the right side. So if you're making a circle, you could start with the left side and then to try to copy that with your right side. It probably will help you make your shapes a little bit better. A vase. Well, sort of a vase. So let me go back to making circles, and I'll show you another one I did. Here's another one, examples of the wavy lines and the circles. And the one with the wavy lines, the red line is the starting line. And then you can see how it changed from there. And there's the circles. Again, remember, these are just warm-up exercises. Be patient with your drawing ability. If you last were eagerly drawing when you were about 8 or 9 years old, then you're drawing at that level. We are programmed to be impatient. We are living in a time when we all need to learn better patience. It's hard when things are out of our control, waiting for a vaccine instead of hoarding toilet paper to control our impatience. We can do something constructive like drawing in a sketchbook. Impatience causes stress and shortness of lifespan. Constant stress raises the cortisol levels, which raises our blood pressure and limits our use of prefrontal cortex, which is the part of the brain we use for reasoning. So drawing in a sketchbook while waiting for an appointment or waiting on the phone for a representative can lower our blood pressure and make us more patient. We are programmed to be impatient, but we can choose to be patient. Choosing to be patient can empower our billions of immune cells. When people say, I can't draw a straight line, I tell them, that's because the world is round. And that's one of the reasons why I like to demonstrate drawing circles. This is something line. So I got a good response. People jerk their head. So I wrote it in my sketchbook. Now I'm wondering if there's something to it. And besides, straight lines are boring. If you use a straight edge for making straight lines on a house or a fence in your drawings, they're not going to be nearly as interesting or active looking. They'll be much more artistic when they are done a little bit askew. Also, I'd like to talk to you about talent. In my opinion, talent is a two-part thing. I know that the dictionary says it's a natural ability, but if you have an interest, that's a natural thing. And if you practice it, that's the other half of talent. I constantly read books and articles written by artists who refer to drawing as a skill. So why do we think that we need talent to draw? There's a neighbor that lives next door to me with 3 little boys, and I was trying to figure out what one of the Halloween costumes was, and she said it's a character from a popular video game. First of all, she was amazed I'd never heard of it. I'm not a gamer. She told me how hard she practiced at the very popular game when she was a teenager to get to the top of the game, the highest level of the game, and she developed a talent for it. Now, isn't it interesting that people refer to something like a video game as having a talent, but when it comes to drawing and people are intimidated by that, they think that it's just a skill, or that you have to have talent instilled in your cells during meiosis and mitosis. It's not magic. It's something that anybody who can pick up a marking tool and make marks on paper can develop. All right, so how about creativity? Oh gosh, everybody's creative. I have my daughter's mother-in-law who always tells me she's not creative when she admires my paintings. And I tell her over and over that everybody has creativity. You wouldn't be able to decide what to wear, what street to drive on, where to place the furniture in your house. So if you begin each session with no regrets of past lack of experience, don't waste time wishing you had been drawing every day all of your life. Draw today, then make a date with yourself to draw tomorrow. Something I've been doing in my sketchbook, when I date the drawings that I do, I'll turn the page and put another date for tomorrow on the next page as a promise to draw for myself. And something that can make that really fun. Sorry, I just had to get my stamp. Get one of these little date stamps. Let's see if I can show you the page where I've used it. Doesn't matter. Anyway, if you use a little date stamp, it just, you know, adds to the fun. There you can get one at the Staples or Amazon and use that in your sketchbook. I think I've used it a few times in this one. Okay. I just wanted to show you this because when you look for me on Facebook, then you can find this picture when you put in my name, because you know there's always dozens of people that have the same name on Facebook and it's hard to find. Okay, next I want to talk about excuses. Before we can draw, we have to get rid of the negative thoughts and whining. I mean excuses, no, I mean whining. Things like, oh, I can't draw a straight line. Yeah, we covered that. I don't have an art studio. Oh my gosh, when you have a sketchbook and the world becomes your art studio. So step outside or set up a still life. Anywhere you can draw with your sketchbook in your lap. Oh my gosh, so much of the time I draw while I'm just standing up. And that's why I like these spiral bound, because I can bend it back and hold on to it while I'm drawing things. We had lunch up at Tahoe and I was drawing the view from the back of the restaurant. The ducks that were in the water. Somebody sitting at one of the other tables, different day. And when the food comes to the table, I've had servers walk up to the table and say, "Ma'am, is there something wrong with your order?" Like, "No, it's just subject matter for my drawing. I'll get to it pretty soon." Okay, what other excuses? I don't have time to draw. You know what? All I have to say about that, we make time for the things we really want to do. I have a friend who looks at my paintings and drawings and says that one of these days he's going to do that if he has the time. Well, gosh, he has a lucrative law firm in San Francisco. And he has a mansion in Napa Valley. He works really hard at his business. And I told him he's good at the things he does because he goes to court often. He deals with his customers often. He's good at personal relations and judges and courtroom. And if you're drawing all the time, then you'll become good at that, because we always become good at the things that we do often. That's a good one for you to write down in your sketchbook. We do things well if we do them often. So I don't know what to draw. That's another whiny excuse. Now, this is when I was talking to you about draw garbage. Let's see, I have some, nope, not here. Okay, I thought I was all ready with that one. There. If you grab something from the trash bin and make it not precious, let's see if you can see both of these. There. Maybe if you are drawing something that's not so precious, then you will have more courage. You'll get past your fear a little bit better. Another excuse, I need better art supplies or special art supplies. Anything that makes a mark on paper, canvas, whatever, cardboard, whatever you're drawing on. Of course, we all want special stuff. So I recommend waterproof ink, such as micron pens, because you can paint over them. I accidentally left one of my sketchbooks out in a rainstorm. Actually, it hailed. And all the pages had to be ironed. And everything bled where it got water in the edges. There's one I like. I can find it. Nope. Oh yeah, here it is. This face bled through on all the pages. Actually, it turned out kind of cool. I like that. But you can tell the ones that are waterproof ink, not waterproof ink. And I want you to invest in several sketchbooks. Keep small sketchbooks in your bag, backpack, or car. Set up an 18 by 24 drawing pad on an easel. In my college drawing classes, we always drew on the 18 by 24. I mentioned that earlier. We mostly had nude models. Nowadays, I see that classes with nude models are referred to as life drawing. They were just called drawing 101, drawing 102. Let's see, what else? Oh, I wanted to show you some of my pencil sketches. Because even if I draw for practice with a pen, I still draw with pencil because I love to do shading. This is one that I turned into a painting by folding it up and making a grid on it. And so on my larger paper, I made a grid with this rectangles twice the size so that I could redraw it and paint it. Everything makes a good drawing subject. Now, one of the reasons why I really hate drawing with pencil in a sketchbook is because when you close your sketchbook and carry it around with you, and as you turn the pages, it's going to blur all the pencil from here to here. Oh my gosh. Your non-dominant hand is your best life drawing. This is an old sketch I did probably 40 years ago, first time we went to Grand Canyon. And it was in the days before I didn't learn about sketchbooks until I was an adult. And I used to just get this is not acid-free paper. One of these days it's just gonna turn to dust. Oh, I love to shade. I know that these don't really show up that well. My favorite thing to draw, besides figures, is hands and feet. And I think that's why I draw bananas so often, because bananas remind me of hands and feet, long fingers, long yellow fingers. Okay. Okay, I have another video for you. And you're going to be drawing bananas with me. So whoever's running the video, Marcia or Eileen, do you have video number 2 ready for us?
A good exercise to help develop the artist's eye. Draw the large shapes before the details. Once the big shape is done, then you can draw the inside parts. Let's start with that tape. That makes a big statement. Oh, and then there's Kitty. That's some attention. Ran out of room over here. Okay. Always do the small parts last. Alrighty. And that shadow. Shadow makes it pretty interesting. I want you to draw along with me when I do these, and I forgot to mention that, so I'll have to tell that before the video starts. Reminder to self. And then you can spend some time putting lines in. So that's a kind of meditational thing, filling in a shadow just by cross hatching. And I'm not going to do all that right now. This has gone on long enough, so you get the idea anyway. So that, and even though it's not that accurate, of course, it's very fun to draw this way. So we got that big shape, then we put in the smaller ones, did the shadow last. Shadow always adds a lot of interest. And you can always add some color and work on the small detail of the UPC code and the dual pineapple emblem. Sorry, there. And I could put this up on my Facebook, Draw Garbage. You can look for it there. Of course, you can always revisit this video on ranchocordova.org. Drawing negative shapes is another way to quickly develop the artist's eye. By negative shapes, the term means any part that is not the object. In the banana one, for the shadow, the negative shapes are the white where there's no shadow, and for the bunch of bananas, there's just those two little slits where you can see that dark background behind them. So for these wine and martini glasses, the major negative shapes, of course, the outside part is always the negative shape, but the internal ones are these shapes in between the glasses, the part that is not the object. And then you can do later, then the shadows also have their own negative shapes with the horizon. So there's one here, and then these back in here, as you can see, sort of repeating in between what we see. So it would be fun to start with these internal shapes. First, I'm going to draw a window on my sketchbook for this one. It's a little bit of a horizontal, and my sketchbook is basically a square. Okay, I'll start with that one over there. Let's see. Straight lines are boring. It's okay. Okay, we have two stems overlapping here. So those are our two main internal ones right there. I think I'm going to go ahead and do the large outside shape of this next. Figure out where to start. It's kind of confusing right here how much of this is the martini glass and how much of it is the tall, tall stem of that dark purple wine glass behind. And you barely see a little bit of that purple wine glass. I have to pay attention to this overlap on that big round shape right there. How far does it come in? So I think I'm going to come down here. Now I lost my place right there. I didn't make that line quite right. That's okay. Alrighty, here's where they're gonna meet. Okay, everything's pretty crooked and it's okay. It's a good practice. I left some room over here for that shadow for later, but for right now, just getting that group with the negative spaces. You can start then to draw the internal. Let's draw this big globe. One over here didn't quite get that. All right, this martini. Well, they touch, see? Now this should have been much bigger. So I'm just gonna fake it. And it was a hot day, the glass melted. Okay, so there's lots of shapes now going on. That's really an interesting shape that's happening in there behind that one. And you could just see funny little white places here where you're looking through the rim. Now here I'm going to kind of correct just for the heck of it, and I think I'm also going to do that with this one. Just to make things really confusing. Okay. Well, I'm just going to go ahead and stop there. But the main thing is if you get the idea and then later working on the shadows, yeah, we'll stop on this one now.
Okay, we're back. And there it is. I finished doing the lines for the shadow. And one of the lines I didn't get in my drawing was that one. It's nice to have these other little, you know, where the banana peel splits apart when you peel it to draw those lines too. It's interesting to see that those lines don't actually follow the shape of that whole banana, that they disappear. So it's nice to be aware of all your shapes and where your lines are headed. There's that one. I've had people tell me, oh, this will be nice when you add color. So yeah, I actually, once in a while, color in some things just to make my sketchbooks, I guess, more interesting for other people, because I really like to draw in black and white. There's some color on this one. You can always tell when it's time for back to school when these things are blooming. This was a session. I've been doing a lot of this kind of art lately, drawing the groups of people on Zoom meetings. Oh my gosh. If you have a chance to draw from a screen, because most of the time nowadays we're being told to unplug and get away from your screens. I think the main problem with all that is social media, because social media has built-in addictiveness. It's not just a thing, it's actually a feature. Oh, and that might look familiar. That's our opening screen that you had to spend so much time with while you were waiting. Also, it might be interesting to draw with black and then use a colored ink to do the shadows. Well, I told you I wasn't going to talk about perspective, but one of the nice things about bananas is the fact that they have overlapping parts. And when you draw things that overlap, like in this little painting I did where there's a shoe behind a shoe and then a pair in front of this shoe, working on overlapping shapes helps you develop a feel for perspective. And remember to pay attention to the shapes in between. What shape is this is very important. It's as important as the shape of each of the three objects in the painting to get your perspective right. To shapes are important to develop a good composition as well. Little kids loved to draw. And if you remember when you were young and how you couldn't wait to get your hands on crayons and some blank paper, little kids don't hang around waiting for the Mona Lisa to sit and pause. They're not comparing their art to all the known art. They're not searching for the sparkle of Van Gogh's Starry Night. Making excuses is also overthinking. The moment we slow down to question our abilities, our art supplies, how much time to spend drawing, how we wish we had more time, wishing for a special place to draw, searching for the perfect subject matter, causes negativity, which leads to fear, stress, anxiety, and you got an artist block. When you walk up on a little kid who's drawing and admire their drawings, the first thing they do is say, here, this is for you. We make drawing hard by not practicing. If it is a musical instrument or a sport, we practice and practice till we no longer have to search for middle C for finger placement or check our grip for a tennis racket for a good swing. Learning skills are similar to learning golf swing or strumming chords on a guitar. Practice until no mental input is required. Just like tying your shoe. Too much thinking causes blocks. Practice drawing until no mental input is required in getting started instead of being anxious about our abilities. Be patient. With children, there is something that happens in the brain sometime between the age of 9 and 11 that might stop the child from continuing to draw. Mostly, children draw as cartoonists, reinventing the objects they draw. This may or may not cause a problem when the child realizes their drawings are not realistic. The child either takes on the puzzle of trying to make his drawing look realistic, or is happy to continue in a cartoon style, or he decides he cannot draw. Oh, okay, the kitty's back and he's trying to knock my iPad off of this little pedestal. Okay, where was I? The child either takes on the puzzle of trying to make his drawing look realistic, or he's happy to continue in a cartoon style. Nothing wrong with that. Or he decides he cannot draw, which is sad. Up to this point, the child thinks he knows all the shapes in the world around him, but now it's time to take a second look. So if you go back to drawing like a preschooler, because those kids know how to practice drawing by not thinking, and it's not precious to them, that will free up a whole bunch. The more you draw, the less serious you're going to take yourself. Maybe you should write that down in your sketchbook. The more I draw, the less serious I take myself, or will take myself. One of the fastest ways to improve drawing skill is by drawing blind. We had a full moon recently, and I love to get up in the morning when the moon is making long shadows. Let's see, I'm looking, sorry. A recent drawing that I did. Oh, there we go. By the moon, those same wine glasses and that one martini glass that we were drawing, and the shadows were way long. And hopefully you can see this okay. Okay, this is drawing blind. I was not able to see the pen making the marks on the paper as I was drawing. So that's why all these glasses look like they're all disjointed. And practicing drawing straight lines by the light of the moon. There's the shadows down at the end. So I want you to, well, draw along with me if you can. Again, and I'm going to draw a pair of scissors without looking at my paper while I draw. So a good way to do this is to put your drawing tablet down in your lap underneath the table when you sit up close to your table or your desk. And you're going to have to trust me that I'm not going to look at those scissors while I draw this. Let's see, you can see them still. Okay. All right. It's like I have to hold my hand so I can't see it. So I get my hand in a good place before I start. Okay. I got to get that middle part. One of the things about drawing this way is that you often surprise yourself with your spot on shapes. Now I don't even remember where I left off on the, no, where did I leave off? Okay, I know that there's a little rivet in the middle or a screw to hold it together somewhere in there. Oh no, okay, now I'm looking at it. All right. I have lots of these. Okay, so as intimidating as this is a good exercise to repeat and repeat and repeat when you're home alone and nobody's watching. And maybe you might even want to have a second sketchbook just for drawings like this. So these were done in pencil, so they're pretty pale, hard to see, maybe. anyway, more of the same. Okay, so that's drawing blind. And then I want you to also promise yourself to do some timed drawing. So set up still lives, or you can go outside and draw nature, and set a timer. Put a timer on your watch for 7 minutes and draw for just 7 minutes. Make yourself get all the shapes in, even if it's just an outline, in 7 minutes. These are all 7-minute drawings. So they're kind of scritchy scratchy, very hurried. This is something I do often as well. Okay, didn't mean to show that one, but here we are. This is a drawing exercise that you're going to see in a lot of how-to draw books, where you take an apple and put it in front of you. Hopefully you've got a shadow. Take a bite, do a drawing. Take another bite, do a drawing, and so on until you get down to the core. It's fun. There it is. Okay. So drawing blind. Let's see. Overlapping. When I was growing up, I didn't know about grade artists, but I always enjoyed drawing. When I was in the 5th grade, one end of school day, another teacher came into our class as I was packing up my homework and heading for the door. The other teacher was looking at a bulletin board project while making, waiting to talk to my teacher. She came over and asked who had drawn a bird that was part of a study of state birds and flowers, and I admitted to it. So she had a question for me. How do you draw a tree branch that is pointing directly at you? Oh my gosh, I was so intimidated and confused. My answer to her was, you just have to look at it. But I was embarrassed because I thought that was the silliest thing to say, but when I thought about it through the rest of my life ever since, is, you know, one of those things that sticks with you. Turns out it was probably the most perfect answer I could have given. I didn't think about the fact that the tree was pointing directly at me. I just drew what I saw. You just break it down into basic shapes. Thinking what things are sometimes prevents you from being able to draw them. Okay, now I want to talk about negative space, which we did in the drawing of the martini glasses. Here's some calla lilies drawn with negative spaces, just the negative spaces and not any internal shapes. Do the big things first, the big shapes first. Do the details last. I have lilies grown in my garden. Okay, and here they are, all drawn in. This one I did with a pencil, and maybe you could see my pencil lines, and I just went over it to make it more visible for you today. And then you could probably go from there to turning your sketches into paintings. Okay, I wanted to repeat drawing with a pen. Drawing with a pen gives us a safety net. Drawing with a pencil gives us a safety net. That's the eraser. The eraser tells us we do not have to learn to see before we make lines. Erasers keep us thinking negatively. Fear of making mistakes helps us learn and grow. In order to learn, we have to push past the fear of failure. We need failure. It's proof that we're learning. If you want to do something and you have a fear of it, do it until you don't think about it. The less mental input, the easier it is to do. Have a fear of drawing in public. Oh, so many people tell me they can't draw in public. If someone comes to observe, say, you can close your book and say, I'm not ready to share. Or tell them every drawing goes through an awkward stage, because it's the truth. Don't let fear rob you of drawing in public places. It's a good learning experience. Oh. Speaking of drawing in public, this is a value study I did when I was taking a class in Jacksonville, Oregon from Frank Webb workshop. And everybody was sitting in the classroom drawing from photos, and I went out on the street because, oh my gosh, that cute little church. And then I turned it into a painting. I think you can see, it's kind of big for the screen. Another good drawing tool is tracing. So excuse me for a minute while I get some of this stuff out of the way. I want to talk about tracing. People have been tracing for artwork since the 1400s when the camera obscura was invented. I think that was a Leonardo da Vinci invention. Don't take my word for it. Google it. Okay, so I'm gonna use this one. Here's a picture I did. It was a painting that was 16 by 20 on aquaboard. Would you, get yourself some soon good tracing paper and open up magazines and trace things from magazines. Print out your photos and trace things from your photos. Tracing helps you see the shape of things. And sometimes you'll be surprised exactly if you see that you need to line things up in order to get things in the right place. Again, that's working on perspective, putting things in the right place. So I see that this part of the leg is lining up with where his beak is located. And over here, his little foot that's on this branch is lining up with those smaller feathers that makes a break between the white and the blue on his smaller feathers there. So if you use tracing and you can compare things like this, this is a definite learning tool. It's only a crutch if you never get away from it. So if you continue always tracing, I mean, now you can get projectors that you can plug in your little flash drive and project it onto canvases and large pieces of watercolor paper and so forth. But like I said, move away from it. Don't keep drawing only from tracing, because your skill's never going to improve. But it's really good to be able to see where things are to learn and teach yourself. People want to know, how do I develop an artist's eye? Well, you do that by drawing, because the more you draw, the more you notice you need to observe the objects in your world more intently. Then you'll notice you're looking at things differently. Get some tracing paper, get lots of sketchbooks, keep sketchbooks everywhere, leave a sketchbook in your car in case you're out someplace and you forgot your sketchbook that was in the bag because you took it out to draw from it at home. Put sketchbooks around in different rooms of your house so you can see different things and walk around your house and just draw things that don't matter. Draw garbage. People also want to know, how do I develop a style? The second we make marks on paper, where we've developed our style. We have a style without trying. Here's another one of those. Drawing while I'm not driving. Inspire yourself by studying art history and famous artists. Do drawings of your favorite paintings. Ooh, I have one to show you. I have lots of favorite paintings, but this is one of my very favorites. The artist is Rousseau, and it's a pretty crazy painting. It's very surreal. I love stuff like that. Okay, and if you are working on maybe a series, I had shown you that red sketchbook that has avocado drawings in it. Yeah, here it is. So I was trying to use, at one point, different famous artists' works. And I came across this Picasso online, and I decided, wow, that really looks like an avocado to me. It's a pregnant lady looking in the mirror. And so I used it to make one of my avocado drawings. And my husband liked it so much that I decided to turn it into a painting. Let's see if I can get further away from this so you can see. Kind of see most of it. So be inspired by everything that's around you. People ask, do we have to know how to draw before we can paint? Well, many famous painters have proven that they didn't need to, but a practiced drawing skill can lead to a solid painting. If you hate your painting, it might really be a nice painting or drawing. It might really be a nice drawing to someone else. So I'm going to tell you, besides not comparing and not stressing about your ability, finish your painting. Don't tear it out of your book. You might regret it later. You can do things to cover it up. If you really hate it, like I did with that one printout of a painting I glued in my sketchbook. All drawings and paintings go through an awkward stage. And sometimes we may become so frustrated at that stage that we just quit. Well, instead of tearing it out because you're going to regret it, even though you hate it, at some point, finish it anyway. Sometimes just the act of getting it finished is going to make you start to fall in love with it again. Even if you put it away and finish it the next day or a week later, sometimes distance will give you a better objective. I have actually come back to an unfinished painting years later, which I had thought was hopeless and I was never going to figure out how to get it going, and finished it and decided it was actually one of my favorite paintings. When you finish drawing for the day and you turn your page and stamp it with your date stamp for tomorrow, or just write in tomorrow's date, that's going to help you. Oh wait, then sleep on it. Sleeping on things. Oh my gosh, we need to sleep on everything. If only I knew this when I was in college instead of pulling all-nighters. You come back to your sketchbook the next day all happy about it. You're going to develop healthy habits. So boost your resilience by going for a walk, practicing deep breathing, good body posture, put good food in your chew hole, and form healthy habits. Draw on a sketchbook. Forming a healthy habit is a good thing to do when you're trying to get rid of a bad habit. So that pretty much wraps it up. And I'll go back to either Elaine or Marcia.
Hello,
And
Susan,
start
it's
taking
Marcia.
questions.
Hi, Susan, it's Marcia.
Yay, hi.
Hi, we have some questions from folks in the audience today. Let's see, first about materials. You are using a fancy pen with the nib, but they ask, can we just use a ballpoint or a fine tip Sharpie?
Anything. I have a drawing in one of my sketchbooks that I did with a ballpoint pen, and it got some water spilled on it and it bled. It was a picture of a cactus. I don't know if I'm gonna like make you hold on while I look for it, but I ended up turning it into a painting. And it was just a little, I lost my pen and I was with a meeting with my husband, and I went over and found the bar and asked the bartender if he had a ink pen. Of course he had a ballpoint pen. No, it's not in that one. Okay, sorry. But yeah, so there's your answer.
Okay.
You know, you can make marks on paper with anything. I was using a dry erase marker at the beginning of this because I wanted it to be fat so you could see it, and I hate the smell of Sharpies.
Well, let's see, you use some color in your sketchbook. A question is that pencil or acrylic, or what are you using to get color in your sketchbooks?
Colored pencil.
Oh, okay.
Of course, you can buy sketchbooks that are watercolor sketchbooks,
Mhm.
but all of the ones that I've been showing you are just regular drawing or sketching. When you buy a sketchbook that says sketch versus one that says drawing,
Mhm.
you're going to get a little bit heavier paper with drawing. And a lot of people actually do watercolor on the ones that say drawing on the cover, because the paper is usually sturdier and can hold up to that.
Okay, let me see if I have this straight. So if it says drawing, that's a sturdier paper that might take.
Right.
Okay, drawing is the sturdier paper. Sketching is the flimsier paper usually. Okay.
Yes.
Let's see. And the envelope that you glued into the back of that brand new sketchbook, why is that a better place than maybe the front of the sketchbook?
Okay, because it just works for me. No reason. You can glue it anywhere you want. Sometimes I've come in about 4 or 5 pages from the back and glued them there.
Ah,
Yeah, like this one and this one is not, it's not actually glued to the back cover in here. I don't know why my screen is turned the wrong way. I have to make it go. Oh, yes, there we go. I have to hold
we
it
love
up.
to see your studio. That we don't mind.
Oh, all right. It's a mess right now because I've been going through, look, I was going to set up a still life and I thought, well, I can't see it and them see it at the same time. Yeah, my studio. I had to bring all of my plants in to keep them from getting frozen.
Ooh,
There's the
yeah.
French doors in the courtyard out there.
Mhm.
People walk in here and say, oh, this is an interesting kitchen. Oh, every artist needs a sink. There's no stuff, and there's all my sketchbooks.
You
Pardon?
have plenty. You have plenty of things to sketch in there. How long should somebody sketch each day, do you think? What do you recommend?
If you can cut 5 minutes of time or 7 minutes for a nice time drawing, boy, you're doing a lot. But don't make yourself tired and don't make yourself sick of it. And if you don't like your drawing, get up and leave it and close your book and come back and do some more on it tomorrow, or ignore it for a while and go start another sketch. So keep it short if you get tired of it, but try to just at least, make some time for drawing. Oh, wait, I want to show a really cool drawing blind. If I can get my camera lens on it. Oh my gosh, we went to see the Blue Man Group. And I thought it was so funny because they said before the show started, no photography is allowed. And then the guy very smart assedly said, oh, but if you have a sketchbook, you can sketch us. And so I pulled my sketchbook out of my backpack and started sketching the Blue Man Group while they were drumming on those drums and splattering colored liquid all over the place. Oh, there they are. I've got a shadow on it there. There we go. Sun's coming in this window now. Okay, next question. Sorry.
So why is drawing a foundation for painting?
Why? Because it teaches you how.
Oh, your voice went away. Because it teaches
sorry. You learn perspective while you draw.
So you're learning to see things.
You're learning, you're learning to see.
Okay. Cool. Well, if there's any other questions out there, there's a Q&A thing that you can just write them in. Otherwise, we have come to the end of our questions today, Susan.
Alrighty. We probably used up more. I didn't keep track of time.
Well, that's a good thing about sketching. Can you give us a preview of what you might be talking about next week?
Next week, I'm going to be talking actually about perspective and composition, and more about drawing for brain health, and probably more about drawing garbage too. That's just a concept I came up with to make people realize that they don't have to wait for the special thing to draw. And when you draw something that's so wonderful, then you're more intimidated by it. You think your drawing should be better, but if you're drawing things that don't matter, then more likely you'll be practicing better, practicing more.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Well, that's all I have today. Eileen, if you have something, now's your chance to come on and say it.
I just wanted to thank everybody for joining us. Thank you so much for your patience while we were sorting out the technical difficulties. And we would absolutely love it if you do join us for next week on with Susan. And we'll have more tutorials coming up in December and January, and potentially for other months as well. So yeah, thank you so much. And I hope you have a lovely rest of your Saturday.
Thank you, Eileen. I think that's it. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week, next Saturday.
Thanks, everybody.
Stay safe, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.